good times. Same goes for the one here, really. You might get it out easily, but getting it back in, it's going to be, it's too tight here. So if you're going to get in here, you're going to have to really jam a finger in there. Maybe even get both fingers at work, kind of hold it in spot here in the front, and then slide the other one up. I have not done it. I am not pulling those things out to find out. If they're not giving me trouble, I would most certainly advise against pulling those things out. Getting in there with the picks really your only solution for getting them out, and you really run the risk of damaging them if there wasn't a problem with them. That's why I hate inner surface O-rings, but this gun has taken my hate for inner surface O-rings much further, because those things have very little access. I'm really considering how many good designs they had on this, they should have just had this thing as two pieces. If it would have split anywhere in this area, especially right here, it would have been bearable. Okay, it's inner surface O-rings, what are you going to do? But it would have been at least bearable. And now it just kind of pisses me off, even though I haven't pulled it out and worked on it, I just know that if there was a problem with it, suddenly it's going to be a pain in the ass. It's not something you want to be doing at your field. It's not even something you're going to want to do when you're at home. So I don't think that it was very good design. I really think that with some of the very simple things that they put into this gun, they really should have done a better job there and just made this can two pieces. Sure, you'd have to say that it was a 4-piece bolt system. Big deal. It at least would have been easy to work on. So anyway, thankfully, it's big enough to actually get a finger in. All these holes are big enough to get a finger in, so you can easily rub lube on them. I suggest you are fairly generous on these O-rings. There's going to be a lot of movement on them, and it's not going to hurt probably too much if you have a little bit of extra on there. I'm not saying gob it on, again. I'm not sure if anybody saw the pictures of Vicky's Clone GT versus the Clone VX drivetrain. He has a little showdown thing. If your bolt engine on any gun ever looks like that, it's the red one, by the way, it's the one lower down. If your bolt engine looks like that, you've got way too much lube. You got enough lube for like 3 guns. So, yeah, I mean, I've never seen anything like that. So if you get a gun like that, or if you're lubing it up and you look at it and it looks like that, somebody's got to go to TechPB and look up that thread. If you see that, that is way too much lube. Way too much. So anyway, it's just cracks you up that thing would look so bad. Oh, crap. Alright. So just run a little bit of lube in there. Make sure that everything's really nice and greased up. And then wipe off the tip here. And then just kind of clean up everything. So it should be a little bit wet here on the outside, and on the inner sections having a fairly decent amount of lube. You can see it in there. You want a fairly decent amount, but not caked. You don't want it like white or anything like that. You're just gonna have a little bit more than wet, to where it's kind of like a nice thick fatty layer. Now you're just gonna take the bolt. Remember, do not put that O-ring back in just yet. Ooh, I just realized I did not get this very clean here in the back. 1 second. There we go. Just stick that on up there, like so. And now you can take that last O-ring, put it on the tip, nice and easy, and then you're going to want a nice thin coat of lube there. If you put too much, it's going to end up blowing down into your breech and into the barrel. It's going to gunk up your eyes. It's going to send your balls spinning all over the place, so that's not what you want. So just have a nice and thin layer, just enough to wet it. It does make a seal, but it's not going to be of the same caliber of some of the other ones. So I definitely suggest that you don't go overboard on that one. So that's the bolt engine. It's really simple. Other than, as long as you don't have any problems inside the can itself, it's pretty straightforward. I think it's got, what is that, 3? There's 4 on the outside, 4 on the inside, 1 on the bolt, and then 4 on the back cap. So yeah, you're looking at, what, 13 O-rings? So it's definitely not a light maintenance, but it's not bad. You know, it has a lot of inner surface, which are difficult to get to, but for general maintenance where you're just going to quickly rub, it's not so bad. If you're going to do full maintenance on this thing, yeah, it's a bitch. I feel sorry for you. Smack that in there and then just turn it on. Not anything else to that. You know, this gun does not have an LPR, so there's not anything to get into there. Eyes and stuff like that. If you're having issues, then obviously I would, you know, if you've broken paint at all, always pull off your eye covers and clean them up. And actually just quickly pull off the eye covers, why not? I've not shot paint with this gun, so there shouldn't be anything really. Is this too big? This is too big, damn you. And here, I thought that I had actually done a good pull. There we go. So it does have ball style detents. A little spring in there, I'm just holding it. But anyway, as you can see here, you've just got your detent and then the eyes themselves. The eyes are a really tight fit. So you don't have a lot of maneuvering room. That's pretty common in all the guns that don't have the eye covers that come all the way down to the frame. When the eye cover comes all the way down to the frame, you get a lot more moving room. You know, the whole thing kind of bends up and it's easy to get to. But anytime you see just that little cover, you know that the eye is going to be a nice tight fit. And it's not going to have a lot of maneuvering room. It's unfortunate, but that, you know, some people want the aesthetics over the I guess you could say practicality of its implementation. I definitely like guns that are a little bit more practical. Obviously I like a good looking gun, don't get me wrong, but I like practical elements in a gun. That's why I like finger detents. They're easy to work with. They don't jam up on you or anything like that. There's no spring to lose or any problems. Anyway, so now I'm going to pull apart the frame, get in there, show you how that works, and point out a couple other things that are inside the gun. So this is another design that I liked with this frame, or with this gun. If you remember on some of my other shows, or even some of your other guns, you know, you have the screws that go inside that don't actually come out. This front one does. This front one comes all the way out, but the back one doesn't. It's an inner screw that you're not going to actually pull out through the hole. So you'll remember that from my Victory. And this one is better designed. The Victory one I don't like. I'm sorry. The Victory one I don't like because you know, you have to angle the thing in. Watching your wires at the same time is a pain in the ass. You got both that you have to work with, and you have to kind of like tighten them at different speeds and all sorts of other crap. And it just ends up being a pain in the ass. You know, the Victory is a good gun, but especially when you're pulling off that frame, it gets dicey and it's a kind of a pain in the ass. So anyway, how big is this one? Not that one, of course. My streak is officially over. There we go. So, another thing a little bit weird with this actually, the two screws for the frame, they're not the same size. This front one is an unmarked, so I don't know what size that one is. But it's definitely not big enough for this back one. It doesn't fit there. So you got to go up to this one for the back. Now, when I said that I like the frame removal on this, I'll tell you why. You have that screw. I can just drop this screw out. I thought. There we go. That screw just comes out, or you can just leave it on there. I'm just going to leave it for the moment. It's probably going to fall out while I'm working, but it might not, so I'm just going to stick it there. But this back one, you don't need to screw this thing all the way out. You know, with the Victory, for example, you need to get the screws all the way out on both of them. That way you can get the frame off. This is not that way. It works on the same slider as up here, except for with your ASA, it's kind of offset, so you kind of need to move it off to the side and then back. But the frame itself can just slide straight out. So what you're going to want to do, it's going to take a little bit more than a half a turn. So I'm just going to give it a full turn. Exactly how much, I don't know really. But anyway, now that it's loosened, you know, the frame kind of wiggles, and you have this other one out, you're just gonna slide it backwards, and it comes right off. So as you can see here, as I said, that screw was just gonna fall out, but whatever. The screw itself is still nicely on there, and then this little section is the tray that it sits in. It makes it nice and easy. If you're going to really work on the inside, I suggest that you open up the grips and remove the solenoid wires and everything else so that it's easier to work on this. I'm not really going to do too much in here. The only thing that you really have up in here is, especially on this side, is that solenoid. That's a huge solenoid with a manifold and everything else. This thing does have a QEV. If your gun doesn't want to chrono over 200, or if you're having other problems, you might have a QEV that's gone out. It just has the one QEV. But it uses diaphragms and all of that. So if you are having issues, I would definitely think that it might be the QEV. It's not certain, of course, but that's something for you to think about. But anyway, basically, I would pull up this manifold, but I had actually read that some of the manifold gaskets, especially on the older ones, when these Demons first came out, the way that it was milled in or something like that, allowed the gaskets to actually become stretched out from all the pressure when it was being gassed up and degassed and stuff like that, that the gasket would actually get a little bit stretched out. So when you pulled off that manifold, suddenly the gasket would no longer fit. You'd need a completely new gasket. I do not have a second gasket. I do not want to risk it. I don't know which which gasket this thing has or anything like that. But again, as I've said with many other things, if you're not having issues, if this gasket wasn't leaking, or if you weren't having issues with the Noid, or if you weren't having for example, QEV problems where you can't chrono high enough, please do yourself a favor and do not go pulling off your Noid. Do not mess with your Noid. Don't go pulling apart pieces on it. Don't screw around with the manifold. There's absolutely no reason to. It's not part of general maintenance. It's not part of, well, every year you should do this. No. The only reason that you work on solenoids and stuff is because they're broken. If you want to try to save yourself money or you think that you can fix it, then you go in there. There is no general maintenance or scheduled maintenance or anything like that for solenoids. So please, please do not go screwing around with them. You will give yourself headaches. So anyhow, now that we're up in here, this here is the air transfer hole. Is this thing focused in? Okay. Here's your air transfer hole. Now, unlike ball longs and stuff, which have an O-ring that goes around, this one, just like with the HPR, has a little plug. So that plug has an O-ring that goes around it, makes it really nice and easy to get to. You don't have to worry about it falling out or anything like that. I'm not going to re-lube it because it's not, it's a static O-ring. It's a little bit difficult to get to all this stuff here. I'm just going to wipe off a little bit of the excess. There we go. So, that's the O-ring that actually seals the body to the frame, that allows, the air to come up and then through there. So if you're having a leak in between the frame and the body, it might be your solenoid or it might be your manifold, but I would definitely try this O-ring right here first. Make sure it's lubed, make sure it's nice, replace it, whatever else, before you start screwing around with anything else. Next, just something that I wanted to quickly point out before I get this thing closed up. Right here, you have your magnet. So this is actually like a little tray. You have an Allen key screw that you take out, and then this whole tray comes up, which has the magnet attached to it. This is on the front side. Remember, I complained profusely about about this in my first impressions video. But this tray here, this one's interesting in that it is for a spring. It has, mine does not have a spring in it. I do not know if they're supposed to have springs in there. Mine does not have one, but right in here there's a hole. I'm not sure if it's showing up, but there's like a, can you see it? Right in here, you can see the red, there's kind of like an indent. You'd put a spring in there, which could then go up into this block here. So you could remove this block, add a spring in there, and then tighten it down. The issue is, it's kind of cool. It's like, oh, you'd have a spring base instead of the magnet base, and you wouldn't have to bitch like a little girl about your magnet problems here. And it would be very similar to, for example, the Alien trigger, which I actually really liked. The issue is there's no way of adjusting the strength on it, which is a little bit sad actually, because if I had some way of adjusting that spring tension, that would actually be a really great solution, because I could just pull out this top plate and then I wouldn't have to worry about that stupid magnet in the front, and then I could just have a spring in the back and it would be great. So potential for a good idea here. It might even feel good. I mean, if you get a spring that's just the right tension for you, it might even still be a good solution. I don't have a spring on hand that would fit it. If it is supposed to come with a spring, I would love if somebody could let me know. Mine does not have a spring. There's no spring loose in here or anything like that. But if it's supposed to have a spring there, I would absolutely love to know, because I hate this magnet. There we go. I really don't like the feel on that magnet. It makes the trigger really blocky, and it kind of breaks away. So anyway, we're going to put your frame together again. You'll see here the little slot that's supposed to go into. So just kind of angle that screw in, and make sure all your wires are in good spots, which I'm actually not liking. Slide this forward again. These Noid wires specifically need to be watched. Come on now. Now you may pain my ass, of course. You went on fine when I didn't have the wires right, but now you're gonna give me crap. Come on. Oh my god, this is gonna turn into the fucking Alien show. Hang on, I'm just gonna loosen this screw a little bit more, so I get a little bit more angle room. So one would have assumed. There we go. So just get that down there. Tighten up the back screw here a little bit. Again, I'm not having good luck with frames lately. It's interesting, actually. If anybody can see my Alien Independence review, I probably used a good, 4 minutes trying to get that damn frame to line up. That wasn't an issue with this thing here. This is just me being unlucky. Where did I put that over? Or the Allen key. And just tighten her on. There we go. Frame's back on. You don't have to pull that screw all the way out. The issue that I had here, technically, as you saw in the beginning, I got the frame back on. It's just I didn't have my wires lined up the way that I wanted them. And I didn't want to end up pinching them. And then when I went to go put it back in, of course, it was just kind of catching because that screw wasn't, I guess, out quite enough for it to be happy with me. So anyway, that's the internals. Let me just start clearing crap out of here. What do I think about the gun? I still stand by exactly what I said on many of the issues. The gun shoots very well, really. It shoots almost identical to a DM12, or a DM in general, really. I haven't noticed any real difference with the DM12 versus earlier DMs. Some people have said the DM12 shoots smoother because they've changed whatever on the bolt. I don't feel that it really shot any different. It's still a great shooter, don't get me wrong. The DM12 is a nice gun, but I don't think they've really done anything. I don't think that it actually made that gun any smoother, or at least it was such a small amount that it really just wasn't noticeable. When I shot this thing side by side with the DM12, I actually shot against 2 DM12s. I've traded with one of the guys at my field for 2 or 3 games. He played with my Demon while I played with his DM12. And the DM12s, when I shot them side by side, DM12 in the left and the Demon in the right, when I shoot the Demon, it's they're almost identical in sound. I'm not even going to discuss sound. They're basically they have a slightly different sound to them, but not necessarily louder on either one. I say that they're about the same sound level, just a slightly different sound signature. But the smoothness goes to the Demon by a very, very, very slight margin. The DM12 and the Demon basically are about as smooth, but the difference is when I shoot the Demon, it's a smooth shooting gun, but you don't feel any impact. When I was shooting it through the whole cycle, I didn't really feel any impact, whereas with a DM12, mid-cycle, you have this kind of, the only way for me to describe it is if you just had your hand and just tap it with the pad of your finger. That's what the DM12 feels like when you shoot. When you shoot, it's almost like a little heartbeat. So as you shoot it, it's just this little tap, 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 tap. The Demon doesn't have that. The DM12 has that little tap. And it was something, even when I shot slowly, it's kind of like, okay, you know, if I'd shot the Demon and then set it down and then shot the DM12, or like shot at a different day, I'd probably say, oh, they were exactly the same. Even when I did my shooting videos, like, yeah, they shoot, you know, it feels just like a DM. Jesus Christ. But no, when I shot it directly with the DM12, both of them, you felt that little tap that the Demon just doesn't have. It doesn't have any sort of thump to it. I mean, even the DM12 doesn't have much, but the Demon doesn't really have it. So I do have to give smoothness to the Demon. Sound levels are the same. Efficiency is going to go to the Demon as well. People are saying they're getting 10 or 11 pods per fill. I would not be shocked if that was actually correct. The only thing is when I was using mine, I obviously didn't use paint. I wasn't shooting at 300. So I was putting full hoppers through the Pinocchio, and I was getting, you know, if I put a full hopper through it, I'm probably using about 400 psi at 250 FPS. So you figure there's 230 balls in each Pinocchio times 11 Pinocchios. That'd be 4,500. So you're looking at, you know, I'm just going to do some quick math here. If I went 10 times 230, that'd be 2,300. Add another 230, so that's 2,530, or something like that. 2,530, or somewhere in that area, or 630, is it? No, it's 530. Man. 2,530 shots, but at 250 FPS. Remember that, at 250 FPS. So I wouldn't be shocked if this thing, you know, at 300 was getting somewhere in the area of, you know, 1,800 shots actually. And this is completely unscientific. Like I said, I don't have I've only used the gun 3 times. One of the times was the shooting video. So I've not put more than maybe, possibly, 2 cases through it, max. So efficiency is really hard for me to call. That's usually why I use the guns for a month or so and get a little bit better feeling on it. But if I had to put a number on it, if I was going to guess, remember I'm not shooting at 300 FPS, if I was guessing, I would put its efficiency at probably around 1,650, 1,700 per tank, which is very, very respectable actually for, you know, for a spool valve gun. So it is definitely an efficient gun. The claims of 10 to 11 pods, I have no problems believing, possibly more. Like I said, I was getting probably somewhere near 2,500 shots off mine, but that's because of the lower FPS. Don't think it's like, oh my god, this thing is better than Bob Long's G6 or video. No, it's not going to happen. But it's still a very efficient gun, so I'm not going to complain about that. You know, I've complained about the trigger. Like I said, it doesn't have the smooth edges. It's kind of sharp on them. I did it in my discussion video, or my first impressions video, but as you can see, it's got these sharp edges. It's a breakaway trigger because of the magnet in the front. So I don't really like it. But I had several people at the field that were trying it out, and they said they like the trigger. As a matter of fact, the guy with the DM12, one of them at least, not both, but one of them said that he liked the trigger on the Demon better than the one on the DM12. The DM12 doesn't have a great trigger, but it's not bad. So I was a little bit shocked. I didn't, you know, I wouldn't even compare them. I don't like this trigger at all, but I guess some people like the feel of it. A lot of people aren't bothered by the edges on it, so you know, I definitely say try it out. For my personal opinion, I hate the trigger. It might as well be the Revy trigger, to be honest with you. The Revy trigger is actually a better trigger because it was at least smoothed off in the front. But you know, I don't like the trigger. I I don't like the ASA because you have to do all the screwing back and forth to get it gassed up and degassed, compared to a lot of other ASAs, which you don't need to do that. You just do kind of like a half turn and a off and a half turn on. This one you've got 4 full spins for it to activate and deactivate, which is a bad design in that regard, but I like the rest of the parts of actually maintaining it. I think it was a great design on that. With the grips, if you see here with the window, I'm not sure how well that's showing up, but right here it's a crack. And basically what's happened is, even though I've barely used the gun, the plastic, I mean, these grips are super thin. I'm not sure how well this is going to show up, but these grips are super thin. So the plastic that actually holds it, it's got a lot of rubber on it. So that means that the amount of plastic that's in there is not very much, and it cracks horribly easy. I don't even know how I cracked it, but it's definitely cracked. It's right around the screen here, and it's not just kind of like a crack for cosmetics. It is most certainly a crack that has cracked the plastic support of this grip. I never ever had that happen before, and I've been much rougher with many guns. This thing's barely been used and it's already cracked that grip, so I was a little bit disappointed there. I like the barrels that came with it. I'm not going to go through all the pieces of what came with the gun. I did that in my in my first impressions video, so if you're curious, look at my channel and you'll be able to see it. But I'm just going to quickly put on this barrel, and I'm going to make sure that everything, I'm going to gas it up, make sure that there's no leaks. If there are leaks, I'm not going to troubleshoot it in this video. I see that I've just gone over the 1 hour mark. Whenever you're maintaining a gun, there's always a chance that it's going to leak afterwards, and there's going to be something you have to chase down. It's just something you have to accept now that when you've been monkeying around in it, especially with spool valves. So I'm just going to quickly gas it up. And that's the air transfer hole. Let me pull this. Oh, right. This gun does not fully degas. That was actually one of the reasons I was going to gas this thing up. It doesn't fully degas. So that means that when you've degassed this, it only comes, it's only degassing what's in the ASA itself and then in the air transfer. So if you want to get the gas out of the bolt engine, take the HBR and just crack it. There you go. And then put the HBR back on there. That's how I've always degassed my guns that have it like that. Like the Alien, you couldn't do that with. I mentioned that in my Alien video. But guns that don't degas, you can typically just crack the HPR and bleed out that air. So anyway, that leak is most certainly that the O-ring here. More than likely, when I was putting on this frame again, since I had to monkey around with it a little bit, it might not have gotten that O-ring into the right spot. I mean, it's obviously in the right spot, but it might have been at too much of an angle and kind of rolled it, or rubbed off a little bit of lube or something like that. So I will pop that thing back off and check it up again and see if that is the issue. But being that it held air in the rest of the gun, I'm 100% sure that it's that air transfer. So that's my Demon review, or Demon Supergun show. The rest of the gun's really solid. I'm actually pretty happy with the gun overall. It's just not the gun for me. It's unfortunate. Somebody else is going to get it, and I'll get a Lux, and I won't like the Lux either, and then somebody will tell me, oh, poor Latsab with his first world problems, I can't find a $1,000+ gun that suits his purposes. So I'm going to cut it here. If you got any questions, hit me up. This thing's probably going to be gone quick, so if you want a video or a follow-up or anything like that, you need to hit me up fast, and then I will do my best to explain something. If you want to see the gasket or the solenoid or anything else, I'm going to tell you to get bent. It's not going to happen. But if you got any other questions, be my guest.